Chapter 8 continues where we left off with Chapter 7. We're still talking about products, one of the 4 P's of marketing, and we're just going to delve a little bit deeper into how marketers can contribute and help to develop new products for their organization, and how marketers can help manage the product life cycle. Many companies develop new products as part of their strategic plan to grow their business, to reach more consumers, to add value to customers, and ultimately to satisfy their stakeholders or shareholders. Developing new products can happen through the firm's own research and development efforts, and there's other ways you can develop products as well, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. It's all about creating new successful products in the marketplace. And to do that, you have to, of course, understand the consumers, the markets, and the competition. So that's part of developing a new product. And you must also develop products that ultimately provide superior value to customers. And really, that's what we're going to talk about for the next few slides. This is an excellent exam question. I very often ask on final exams to walk me through the various steps or stages of the new product development process. And this is sort of a visual representation of those steps. We're going to go into them in more detail in the subsequent slides, but they include idea generation and idea screening, concept development and testing, marketing strategy development, business analysis, product development, testing the market, and commercialization. Those are the steps or stages of the new product development process. And again, this is an excellent exam question. In order to develop new products for your company, you of course have to generate ideas. So idea generation is a systematic search for new product ideas. And there's 2 main sources of ideas for new products. You can have internal idea sources, so individuals within or connected to the organization that come up with ideas for the company, or you can actually look outside of the organization to develop new ideas for new products. So internal idea sources include all the people that work in your organization, not just the people who work in research and development, but it can be actually anybody in your organization who might have a really good idea. Some companies even develop what are called intrapreneurial programs, where they incentivize their employees to come up with new ideas. For example, did you know that 3M, the major company 3M, actually has an intrapreneurial program where they allow their employees to take part of their time at work, paid time at work, to work on new ideas that may or may not be directly tied to their work responsibilities. And it was because of that intrapreneurial program that several years ago now, probably 30, maybe even 40 years ago now, 3M had an employee who worked there and was a little bit familiar with some of the adhesive products that 3M had developed in the past. So sort of the glue or sticky products that 3M developed as part of their product mix. Anyway, this particular employee also, outside of work, happened to be a member of his church's choir. And he was really frustrated when he would go to sing in his church's choir, because he would try to mark the pages of the hymn book where the songs were that they were going to sing for that particular church service. He couldn't find a way to mark those pages that didn't damage the hymn book, or that were that stayed in the hymn book. So sometimes, if you put little slips of paper in at the appropriate pages, those pieces of paper would fall out and he would lose his place. And of course, he didn't want to dog ear or turn down the corners of the hymn book because he felt that was damaging the book. And he remembered that 3M had developed a kind of adhesive years before that was kind of sticky, kind of sort of tacky, but didn't stick really, really well, just stuck a little bit. And what he did was he put a little bit of that adhesive on the edge of a slip of paper, and that is how Post-it notes were born. It was just an idea that the entrepreneurial program at 3M fostered, and of course, that particular product idea has now become an enormous success and is ubiquitous and present in every single household and office around the world because it's a really useful product. So entrepreneurial programs can really work. Other sources of ideas include external sources. So you can talk to your distributors and your suppliers. You can look at what your competition is doing, and you can talk to your customers. Very often, they might have really good ideas for potential products that might make good sense for your particular company. One example of an external idea generation strategy is to use what's called crowdsourcing. So creating competitions or incentives among your customers or among the general public to come up with some really creative ideas. And companies like Under Armour and other major companies, major brands, use this strategy on a fairly regular basis. Mountain Dew uses it, Doritos uses it, to encourage their customers to give them ideas for new products that they'd like to see in the marketplace. After you've developed a list of possible ideas for products that your company may want to develop for the marketplace, then your task is to screen those ideas. Not all ideas are good ideas. Not all ideas are practical or reasonable or feasible ideas. And so the next task in the new product development process is to screen those ideas, to see which ones are good ideas and worthy of at least pursuing a little bit further, and which ideas are poor ideas and we don't need to work on those right now. There's also a third category, which are ideas that may not be a good fit today or right now for the organization, but that we don't want to throw away completely because they may represent an opportunity in the short or foreseeable future. So some ways to screen ideas is to actually sort of work through those ideas and review them by committee, looking at whether or not this idea is real. Is there a real product idea here? Is this something we can win with in the marketplace? And is it worth doing? Meaning, can we make money doing this? Those are some of the fundamental framework type questions you may want to ask yourself for each idea that you're screening. So once you have an idea or a few ideas that you want to continue working on to see if you can turn into a product, then you need to actually conceptualize what that product might look like. A product idea is an idea for a possible product that the company can see itself offering to the market, right? So you've taken an idea, maybe it's something like the 3M Post-it notes idea, where you have an idea you want to develop, a piece of paper that's a little bit sticky but not too sticky. Well, the next phase or the product concept is to turn that idea into a product, one that the company can see itself offering. The product concept is where you take some time as an organization to develop a detailed version of this new product and state it in meaningful consumer terms. What might this product look like? What might this product do? How might this product work? Right? And so you start to develop it. This isn't the final stage. This is where you just start to develop those product concepts and ideas to sort of be really more clear in your own mind and be able to articulate what this product might actually look like if it were offered to the marketplace. It includes a product image, which is the way the customers might actually perceive the potential product. So how might customers view it? How might customers use this product? How might customers derive value from this product idea? So this stage, concept development, is where you take a product idea and you see how attractive each of these components of the product or each concept is to consumers. You may have a couple of versions, for example, of the same product, and you want to see how customers react, how customers use the product, what features of the product do customers actually find valuable, and choose which ones make the most sense, which ones are actually doable, which ones customers value the most. So figuring out of all these various options that we could include in the product, various alternatives that we can develop, which ones actually make the most sense from a business perspective as well as from a consumer's perspective. And as you continue to develop your product and test the concepts, you actually want to test new product ideas with a small group of target consumers. You want to either present an actual or a symbolic sample of the product, maybe a prototype, to consumers and see what they think of it. See how they use the product, see their reaction, get feedback from them at this stage of the new product development process so that you can incorporate that feedback where appropriate into the product's design. This is where you start asking customers to respond by answering questions about their initial reactions to the product concepts. Do they think this is something that they might buy? Do they think this is something that might make their life better? Do they think this is something that they might use? And so this is, again, where you're continuing to refine your product idea, make it better and better and better, so that ultimately you come down with a specific product idea. You've gone from general product idea to something that's more specific and has all sort of the component parts built in. The next stage of the new product development process is where you start to develop your marketing strategy, your 4P marketing strategy that you think might be the most appropriate strategy for this new product, right? This is where you describe who the target market for the product might be. This is where you develop a plan for your value proposition. How are you going to provide value to your customers through your 4P strategies? This is where you start thinking about sales tactics. How are you going to sell this product? Where are you going to sell this product? Those sorts of things. What kind of market share do you think you might be able to generate with this product? And what are some profit goals that you think might be reasonable given this product and the product category? This is where you start to think about the pricing strategy that you might use for this product, the distribution or place strategy that you might use for this product. And this is where you start thinking about the marketing budget. How much money are you going to need to invest in marketing activities to make this product a success? This is also the stage where you develop long-run sales targets and profit goals and finalize, or not finalize, but really develop much further your 4P marketing strategy for this new product. So the business analysis stage of the new product development process is a really critical stage. This is the stage where you actually start to crunch the numbers. How much is it going to cost to make this product that we've developed? How much is it going to cost to market it? How much revenue can we expect to generate? How much profitability can we expect to generate? This is a critical stage in the new product development process because this is the last stage before you're going to make major financial investments in producing this product. This is your last chance to figure out whether or not the numbers make sense, whether you can actually make a profit and be successful delivering this product to the marketplace. So you're going to look at your sales, you're going to look at your costs, you're going to look at your profit projections and find out whether or not these numbers look like they're going to satisfy the company's objectives. You're going to ensure at this point that the product idea that you've developed as an organization can actually be turned into something that works in the marketplace. So this is your last opportunity to decide whether or not this product should go forward or not, because after this stage, your company, if you decide this product is going to go ahead, your company is going to need to make some major investments. So this is your last chance to check to make sure that you've got the product right and it makes good business sense to pursue this opportunity. So if the business analysis stage of the new product development process leads you to decide, yes, we're going to continue pursuing this new product idea, the next phase is to actually test the marketing of your product. This is where you actually introduce the product and the proposed marketing strategy that you're going to use to consumers in a realistic market setting. It gives the marketer an opportunity to to try out various parts of their marketing strategy before the product is fully introduced into the marketplace. You can test the product and test its marketing, test the marketing program, but tests take a lot of time and can be very, very costly. So you want to make sure that it's worth doing, because testing takes a lot of time, a lot of expertise, and can be very, very expensive. Some companies like Starbucks that have fairly deep pockets and can spend money, they test their market by actually putting products out in the marketplace and then tweaking them afterwards. So Starbucks, this is an example where they introduced a less than perfect mobile payment app that didn't work exactly the way they wanted to or the way customers wanted it to. And then once the product was actually in the marketplace, they tweaked it and made changes and worked out the flaws until they got it right. A lot of companies can't afford to do that. They can't afford to make mistakes, and they can't afford to fix those mistakes once they're made. So again, depending on the company and the nature of the new product and the situation, you may want to be more cautious than Starbucks was when they introduced this new mobile payment app. Some ways to test your marketing strategy. It could be controlled test markets where you try to control as many possible variables as possible, or simulated test markets where you conduct experiments on people and you play around with different variables to see how consumers respond. So instead of actually introducing the product to a small segment of a real market, you may have, for example, people come in to a particular location and sort of conduct experiments on them. The reason for using alternative test markets as opposed to actually introducing the product to the marketplace is that it can be less costly and it can actually speed up the testing process. If you can get people to come in and in a controlled environment and simulated environment, sort of see how people respond, you can get results actually a little bit quicker, and it may cost you less money in the long run. The last stage of the new product development process is commercialization. This is where you actually introduce your new product into the marketplace. Some considerations that you want to think about when you're introducing a new product in the marketplace is when to launch. Is there a better time of year, for example, to introduce a new product to the marketplace? Well, if your new product is a children's toy, you probably don't want to introduce it to the marketplace in January or February and have missed the Christmas season, right? So sometimes it makes a lot of sense to strategically pick when you're going to launch your new product. There's a reason why in pre-COVID times, big blockbuster movies were either released sort of around Thanksgiving, Halloween, to lead up to Christmas, or at the beginning of the summer. It's because those were the periods of time where most people are looking to go to the movies. So when you launch a new product, actually can have a big decision or a big impact on your new product's success. You also want to decide where you're going to launch your product. Are you going to launch in a single location or market first and then roll out to other markets over time? Or are you going to launch it all at once across the country? Are you going to launch it internationally right from the beginning? So you want to think about where you're going to launch your product for the first time as well. It's really important when you introduce a new product to the marketplace to manage that product really carefully. And there's 3 approaches to doing that. One is to take a customer-centric approach, so taking a look and managing very carefully the customer's engagement with the product and determine what's working, what isn't, and how they're responding. You, of course, want to take a team approach where everybody in your organization is involved in supporting this new product in the marketplace. There's also a systematic new product development management, so gathering the information or data to help you make tweaks or changes to the new product development's introduction into the marketplace to ultimately help it succeed. A customer-centered new product development process really focuses on customers and finding ways to solve customer problems and create more value by satisfying customers in the long run. And so that's sort of the frame of mind for new products. If you're not satisfying your customers, if you're not providing them with real value, your product is going to fail. Customers aren't willing to spend money to invest in new products if those products don't satisfy a need and provide them with value. So always taking into consideration the customer's perspective is an important part of new product development. The team-based approach recognizes that all the different parts of a company, all the different departments have to work together collaboratively to make a new product a success. It isn't just the marketing department. It isn't just research and development. All of the pieces, organizations or departments in a company need to work together to make sure a new product is successful in the marketplace. And from a systematic perspective, you need to collect, review, evaluate, and manage new product ideas and the data associated with it to make sure that the numbers and the information support what it is you're trying to achieve as an organization with this new product. We just spent a lot of time talking about introducing new products into the marketplace, but what happens once new products have been in the marketplace for a while? Well, that's where the product life cycle comes into play, and we're seeing on the screen right here a depiction of what the product life cycle looks like for products in the marketplace. Of course, we just talked about the product development phase, how we develop new products. And we very briefly talked about introducing those new products to the marketplace through commercialization. But then we have not yet talked about growth, the growth of a new product in terms of its penetration into the marketplace, the maturity of a new product where it reaches sort of its peak capacity in the marketplace, and then inevitably, like all products do, their decline or sort of becoming less relevant in the marketplace. And you can see that the sales trends and the profitability trends for products during their life cycle actually changes quite a bit. Products don't tend to make any money in the introduction stage. You may have some sales, but you're not very profitable during that phase. Why? Because you have to recoup all the costs that you spent during the development phase. And it's really through growth and maturity where companies can see a level of sales where they can experience profitability on those sales. And then in the decline phase, you can see where sales are dropping off, and as well, products are dropping off to the point where these products no longer are actually profitable in the marketplace. Not all products follow the general bell curve of product growth, maturity, and decline. There are different kinds of products that follow different kinds of curves. For example, things go in and out of style when it comes to products, and so you can see various fluctuations or waves in a product's life cycle. When it comes to fashion, we see a quicker level of growth for fashion, and also a quicker level of decline. And you don't usually see any waves there, because once something is in fashion, after a fairly short period of time, it will become out of fashion. And you'll notice the last little chart, which is a fad, you'll see a very sharp peak up where the fad is taking off, and just as quickly a quick drop where the fad no longer is trendy or relevant in the marketplace. The example that they use are fidget spinners. Fidget spinners became incredibly popular in a very, very short period of time, but just as quickly declined and are no longer really a relevant product category for most people. So not all life cycle curves follow that general bell curve of gradual increase, peak, and gradual decrease. There can actually be different shapes to a product life cycles curve based on the kind of product that it is. So this slide is really important because it's important to understand each stage of the product life cycle, because each stage requires different marketing activities. You market products differently in the introduction and growth stage of the product's life cycle than you do in the decline stage. So it's really important to understand how each stage of a product's life cycle, introduction, growth, maturity, and decline, influence things like sales, costs associated with producing the product, your profitability, who your customers are. Different types of customers buy products at different stages of the product's life cycle. We're not talking about the customer's life cycle. We're talking about the product's life cycle. So different types of consumers buy products at different stages of the product's life cycle. And also, this chart will show you sort of what kind of competition you can expect to see at various stages of the product's life cycle. At the bottom of the chart is what you have to do from a marketing perspective at each of the stages, and it's really, really important to understand that the bulk of marketing happens in the introduction and growth stage of a product's life cycle. Yes, you still have to market products during the maturity stage, but at this stage it's about reminding consumers about your product and defending your market share. It's not about, you can spend less proportionally during the maturity stage than you would spend in the introduction and growth stage. And of course, once you get to the decline stage, you should be reducing your marketing expenditures because you're getting to the point where you're not making much money and there's not a lot of opportunity for this product going forward. So you want to start spending less on marketing. So it's really, really, really important that you understand this chart because, again, the various stages of a product's life cycle will determine what kind of marketing activities and what kind of marketing objectives you should have for each of those stages. So if you look at this chart, again, it will show you the 4 stages of the product's life cycle: introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. And on the left-hand side in the column, you'll start to see 3 of the 4 P's here. We've got product, price, and distribution is basically the same thing as place. So in the introduction stage of the product's life cycle, you offer a fairly basic product, right? The bare minimum, the introductory sort of model of the product. But as you move through the product's life cycle, you offer more product extensions, you offer more service, you offer warranty. As you get to the maturity stage, you might diversify the brand and offer even more models or versions of the product. And in the decline phase, you're going to phase out those versions of the product that are weak or aren't performing as well. And so that's how the product strategy changes over the course of a product's life cycle. The pricing strategy in the beginning, you often use a fairly simple and rudimentary pricing strategy, basically cost plus pricing. But when you're trying to grow or in the growth stage of the product life cycle, you might price to penetrate the market. You want to get your product into as many people's hands as possible, and so you may price your product accordingly. In the maturity stage, you want to price to match or beat your competition. You want to develop a pricing strategy that will help you hold on to market share and maybe even steal market share from your competition. In the decline phase, you just want to move the product. So you start cutting prices because people who buy products in the decline stage of the product life cycle tend to be very, very price sensitive. So cutting prices might actually induce those people to purchase. From a distribution perspective, in the early stage, you're building selective distribution. Not everyone is going to be carrying your product. You're going to be working really hard to create meaningful relationships with selective distribution channels. As you move through the growth stage, you want to build and build and build on those distribution channels to have your product available in more markets. At the maturity stage, you're continue to build distribution and you're probably available in as many locations as possible. This is going to be the peak of your distribution. And then in the decline phase, again, you start to decline and pull back on those channels of distribution that maybe aren't as profitable and aren't giving you the results that you're looking for. So in the last slide, we talked about product, we talked about price, we talked about place. This last slide is promotion. How do we promote products during the various stages of the product life cycle? When it comes to advertising, which we'll talk more about in a few weeks, this is where your focus in advertising is on building awareness and encouraging the early adapters, the people who like to buy products really early in their stage of development. You encourage them to buy. In the growth stage, you're building engagement and interest in the mass market. Right? It's not the innovators and early adopters. You're looking to start to engage the mass market of consumers. In the maturity stage, you're emphasizing how your brand is different and the benefits that your brand provides to its customers. And you're reminding them again of the product's existence. And you're in the decline stage, you're reducing the level of advertising expenditure that you're investing, and your focus is really on only those hardcore, core, loyal buyers who continue to purchase and support your product. From a sales promotion perspective, you may want to use heavy sales promotion to encourage people to try your product. In the growth stage, you may want to reduce your sales promotions to take advantage of heavy consumer demand, right? Consumers in the growth stage, people are increasingly buying your product, so you may not have to incentivize them using sales promotions. You may want to, but you may want to reduce the emphasis on that. In the maturity stage, you may want to incentivize your customers to switch brands. Steal market share from a competitor, for example, is a primary objective during the maturity stage. And in the decline stage, you're reducing your sales promotion activities to a more minimal level. Some other major important decisions that you need to make when you're developing products include public policy issues. So are there any regulations or government rules that are going to impact your product decisions? So for example, if you're introducing a product into the marketplace where the price is regulated or partially regulated by government, you obviously need to take those things into consideration. Do you have to file for patent protection, or are you infringing on someone's patent protection? So you want to look at the legalities of what it is you're trying to do, and protect any investments that you make in new product development through patent law, copyrights, those sorts of things. You want to think about product quality and safety. So are there safety concerns with your product and how it might be used, or quality concerns? You want to make sure that you think about those things. And of course, things like product warranties. How do you stand behind your product? The fact that you're willing to stand behind your product through things like warranties offer a level of credibility and comfort to consumers to know that your product is a good one to buy because you're standing behind it. So you want to think about those kinds of product decisions during the product development and also the subsequent stages of the product's life cycle. Just very, very briefly, because we actually have a chapter at the end of the semester on international marketing. But when you're introducing a product in more than one marketplace, so maybe here in Canada and the US, but also elsewhere in the world, you want to take into consideration factors that may be different in different parts of the world than they are here. So in many major global markets, for example, McDonald's actually adapts its menu. So in India, for example, you can get the McMaharaja, which is a non-beef based product, because beef consumption in India is not something that's very common. In several Middle Eastern countries, you won't find pork products, for example, on the menu. So there's menu variety, but there's also other ways in which you can tailor your your products and services to international markets. And we're going to spend a lot more time on that later in the semester, but it is something to think about when you're developing new products, is how will this new product be received in markets other than our home market, and there are things that you need to do to adapt the product to meet those particular needs. And lastly, some of the challenges that face international marketers. What kinds of products and services might work well in other countries, and how do we decide about whether or not we should standardize or introduce the same product across various international markets, or tailor or adapt our products to meet the unique needs of consumers around the globe. And again, we will spend a lot more time talking about international marketing. I think it's the very last chapter that we cover in this class, but we need to understand that the decisions we make about products in our home market may actually need to be different, or at least somewhat different, than the decisions we would make when we introduce new products in other markets around the world.